Good afternoon and welcome to Bulldogs Behind the Scenes, where we explore people, places, and research affiliated with the University of Minnesota Duluth. Today, we are going to take a tour of the UMD renovation project of A B Anderson Hall. Before we begin, we're going to take a moment here to pause so that everyone has a chance to log on. You'll notice on this slide, there's going to be an old photo of A B Anderson Hall during the dedication in 1973. At this time, also feel free to add a favorite memory of A B Anderson Hall in your response. Well, my name is Molly Clevin, and I'm from the University of Minnesota Duluth Alumni Relations team. Today, we are going to take a behind-the-scenes look at the A B Anderson Hall renovation project. Before we begin, I'd like to highlight some of our past programs. We have explored places like the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, Amsoil Arena, Superior Hiking Trail, the proposed UMD Sales Center, and the UMD Chocolate Lab. We've also explored many more places, and you can access all of these events on demand at our website, d.umn.edu/alumni. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Alumni Relations website. You will receive an email with the link once it is ready. Finally, we will have time at the end of the presentation to answer live questions. To submit a question, use the question and answer button on the bottom of the screen. Before I introduce our guest today, we're going to watch a very short video clip about the impact of the A B Anderson renovation project. So let's take a look at that now.
A B Anderson Hall has been home to us since I think maybe even the 1950s as a department. So the remodel has been sort of a refreshing of the space, including new HVAC, new lighting. It's just like going from almost nothing to something, and that's something that we got. If you get to see it, it's just really beautiful. It's a great space.
The most important interaction that we see are the students who've sort of made claim to the public spaces, who identify it as a place where they can really thrive and work between classes.
I come out of my classroom and I see at least two faces that I know, and we chat and we complain about schoolwork or talk about our days, and it's really like fostering a community feeling that I haven't experienced elsewhere on campus.
The other thing that's really evident is the happiness of the instructors, our faculty, who are really pleased to have a space that is updated, that allows them to really focus on the assignments and on the students rather than some of the other things that were always kind of a challenge.
The office space that you see here is really nice also. Everybody has brand new furniture, and it's very inviting for the students.
The drawing studio allows us to actually have students use fixative in place. We have a new ventilation system. It's a really important renovation because it really speaks to the health and safety of our students and also to the kind of work that we're having them do. We are counting down the moments until we can move back into the first floor, because the first floor is the second phase of the A B Anderson work, and these are our really technical spaces. A lift has been installed so that that makes the whole space accessible, as well as updating health and safety, which when you are running a welding cage, a kiln, doing all of this work is really a priority to have air conditioning and also fire and life safety.
As faculty member and as department head, I feel very energized to be back in this space.
There's a good 24, thanks to a good 23.
This whole building, I would argue, is a phatic success. Phatic communication just means, well, is another term for small talk. And so all those little interactions where that small talk happens are big, big things to the health and well-being of a community, whether it be faculty or students.
Sometimes I think the arts feel like we're not going to be invested in, and that hasn't been true. The advocacy that allowed this project to go forward at all levels of the university and outside of it reminds us that the arts are really at the heart of some of the things that we do on campus, and I think the students sense that that investment is really important.
So now it is my pleasure to introduce John Ketzler, who is going to guide us through the specifics of the project. John has worked at UMD for 38 years and is currently the Senior Construction Project Manager for large construction projects at UMD. His focus is primarily on building and infrastructure remodeling. Prior roles at UMD have been Facilities Management Operations Supervisor, Sport Facilities and Events Manager, and the Assistant Director of Recreational Sports. It is now my pleasure to hand it over to John.
Thank you, Molly. Welcome from all of you. Hopefully you'll be able to see some changes in the following presentation. If you actually resided in A B Anderson Hall, I hope it's a big shock to you. Let's start with a little background information. In 2017, the need for renovation became very apparent for A B Anderson, and a pre-design component was concluded with an estimated cost of the project, of which we would go to the state legislature for bonding. That cost was a total project of $6.6 million, with $4.4 million coming from the state bonding at the time, and the UMD's contribution would be the balance to $6.6 million. Well, what happened right after that was the pandemic and the virtual shutdown of the supply, assembly, productivity of building materials. And thus supply and demand drove those prices up tremendously. So for example, before the pandemic, you could buy a 2x4 for $4.59. And during the pandemic, that price jumped to about $12.30. And that's just one commodity of the building materials industry. Well, in the commercial building industry, that percentage increased more than your residential pricing for building materials. At the time, we hired a construction manager at risk, which is a general contractor. In this case, it was Johnson Wilson Constructors of Duluth, as well as a design team of Architectural Advantage of Duluth and Dunham Engineers and Associates from Minneapolis. That was the design team and the construction manager at risk. Once the design team had put forth the 100% documents for that renovation, at the current commodities pricing, that $6.6 million, just the construction portion alone, was $8.7 million, which would put the cost of the building itself at around $11 million. It was decided by the administration at the time that we would only do what we could afford and wait for a further bonding session to ask for the balance. Thus, we just broke this building up into two phases, floors 2 through 4, as well as the penthouse infrastructure. And phase 2 would be the art and design studios on first floor, and also the mechanicals and electricals to support that space. As phase 1 began, the major subcontractors were Belknap Electric out of Superior, Wisconsin, and JK Mechanical Systems out of Nashwauk, Minnesota. Phase 2, when that came around, the only change was the mechanical contractors went from JK Mechanical to AW Kettle of Duluth. We began in earnest to move everyone out of the building, got them in temporary quarters across campus, and started our demolition for phase one. As phase one progressed, we had put in a request for the next bonding cycle to continue phase two at a price tag of $5 million. So if you can recall, there was not a normal bonding session that occurred as it was just coming out of the pandemic. And funding for bonding was pushed off to many special sessions. And so it was certainly off the normal calendar schedule, which delayed a lot of the material requests. As we progressed, we'll start with the roof and what we did up there. At the roof line, we had to increase the penthouse area to be able to house the new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems that would bring the building up to current fire and life safety codes, as well as the American with Disabilities Act requirements and other building code updates. What you see in front of you is the penthouse air handling unit. That unit only supplies floors 2 through 4. It is 26 feet long and about 16 feet high. And that is like your forced air furnace in your home, only of course on a larger scale. It provides heating and air conditioning through the ventilation systems to every room in floors 2 through 4. Also on the penthouse area, we added the infrastructure for air conditioning condensing systems out on the roof line, supplied the building with cooling water from our central plants that we have on campus, and also took the heating plant high pressure steam and utilized that into energy code sustainable hot water perimeter heating. And you'll see that in a further slide later on that I can explain it a little more. The electrical was upgraded to allow the breakdown of circuitry in the building. There were panel boards and transformers that were installed as we went along, as funding became available. As most of you know, the campus is interlocked with other buildings, and we have found during renovations that sometimes our buildings are supplied with utilities from other buildings. Well, the idea is every building must be put as a standalone facility. For example, the electrical service for all of A B Anderson Hall originally came from the transformers in Chena Hall. So by the addition of adding its own transformers, now it is not dependent upon any other building on the campus. Exteriorly on the roof, you can see a cooling condenser to your left of the screen. That is like your air conditioning condenser at your home. What's in front of you is a flash tank that allows the steam to lower its temperature and become less volatile as high pressure steam. And that provides an exchange of hot water for building heating systems at the perimeter radiators. As you can tell, that new penthouse is very high compared to the original drawing that or photo that we saw at the first slide. This is the north or former KUMD microwave tower that takes a signal from the station and throws it over to the antenna farm in Duluth for broadcast in the area. Our new penthouse blocked that, and we needed to raise that transmitter higher than the new penthouse. So KUMD, or excuse me, the North, as they are known now, we're able to continue broadcasting. This is the last piece of the penthouse area, roof area. What you see in front of you are ductwork that was installed to carry fumes and other exhausts from the art studios on the first floor. Again, fire and life safety, in this case, life safety, making it safe for our students to learn the specific art that is provided in those studios on first floor. The building generator, which again is a requirement for every building, you notice it's empty. That is one of the supply chain pieces of equipment issues. And once that generator was ordered from the manufacturer, they told us that it would arrive on UMD's site in 62 weeks. What that means is that we'll have a generator there sometime this May, and it will take about a month to install all of the emergency power, accessories, and generator itself. The generator is designed as a green generator. It is a natural gas generator, and its emissions are controlled via the federal law for greenhouse gases. This is just another view of the condenser for the air conditioning system that again is part of the phase 1 and phase 2 setup for our utilities. Moving down, we'll start on the 4th floor, and the 4th floor is occupied by the Department of Communications. On the 4th floor, in all classrooms throughout the building, they were updated for the latest technologies in audiovisual. Each classroom has perhaps different furniture, and I'll point that out as we see something, but depending on what the classes in that space need, we have the availability of using furniture that is conducive to collaboration, student groupings, instructor projects that the students work on, or in a straight classroom lecture style. On the 4th floor, again, trying to make these classrooms comfortable for learning and easy to the student occupants for that learning capabilities. Every area, or every floor, I should say, also has a commons area. This is the 4th floor commons area, which is comfortable. Students collaboration, and just a place to belong for these departments. Also, on every floor, we've upgraded offices for the faculty. New furniture, you can see an LED lighting. The heating system that is behind Aaron Boyson there are all driven hot water, which is an energy code and cost savings instead of using the old steam radiators. And every floor also has a break room for faculty and staff, as well as the spaces for a seminar room or a quick conference room, of which each floor was able to decorate these rooms as they so choose, and you will see that as you move down in the floors. Again, for ADA compliance or American with Disabilities Act compliant restrooms, every floor has 2 unisex ADA compliant restrooms that are conducive for disabilities and have the accoutrements or accessories to allow that use. You'll notice the drinking fountains, again, at each floor are ADA accessible drinking fountains with bottle fillers and making it more easy for folks to swing by, grab some water, take it to their office or their classrooms as they need. Third floor, the third floor occupants are the art and design offices, as well as drawing and digital arts, and offices for the Department of Philosophy. Again, on each of these floors, you'll notice little differences in the labs and or classrooms based on the needs of each program. This is the lab or drawing room that also has the upgraded audiovisual technologies. It has its own matte spray booth that, again, for occupant safety, allows the spraying of adhesives and other materials to be exhausted out of the building and not back into the space where it may become a health hazard. This is a classroom on this floor, and I want to point out the classroom furniture on this floor is different from what you saw on the 4th floor. These are more conducive to more of a standard lecture, but you'll notice there are casters on these tablet armchairs that do allow collaboration in groups if so needed. This is the 3rd floor seminar room or commons, not commons, excuse me, conference room. And notice it is decorated a little bit different. I like the Rock'em Sock'em robot game that's sitting on the table. Bring back many memories for most of us older folks. The commons area on the 3rd floor is conducive, again, for student collaboration, studying. But you'll notice on this area is a little bit different than what you saw upstairs in the 4th floor. You'll notice a picture rail that is installed up above this area, and that is to allow student art to be hung and shown as the instructors so choose to do. The offices are the same as what occurred upstairs: new office furniture, LED lighting, and ventilation. This is the faculty break room on this floor. The second floor, moving down, is the main entry into A B Anderson. And on that second floor is the Department of History, and also the Commons area here. The display that is to the left of the photo is the public art that is required by the state legislature for any projects that have bonding money. And so the artist for this installation, her name is Anna Metcalf, based in St. Paul area. And her piece should be arriving shortly and completed for the public art ribbon cutting that should occur next month. The case on the right is the Department of History's case, and they will be rotating exhibits in that case. I want to point out below that case is the latest campus time capsule. And there's a plaque on the bottom of that case that shows when it's to be unveiled in the future. These classrooms on the second floor are considered general purpose classrooms. Even though a majority of classes scheduled in these areas do belong to the departments in the building, they can be scheduled for any department on campus that is in need of space during a certain hour of the day. And each of these classrooms all have the audiovisual upgrades, technology upgrades. And as you can tell in these classrooms, the furniture is tables and the seating is on casters that allows the movement of these students. And the tables are also on casters and they fold that allows the spaces to be accommodated for a wide variety of UMD classes. The first floor or lower level, which is phase 2 of the construction, are the art and design studios. These art and design studios, the main emphasis for these were, just as upstairs, to bring all utilities up to code requirements to meet the Minnesota Energy Code for the usage of power and natural gas, and make it very safe for the occupants that utilize non-traditional learning applications. So as you go through these studios, you will notice a few things. The main mechanical space on this level takes the campus utilities on the right-hand side, which is your high-pressure steam from the main heating plant, and it goes through a reducing station, which reduces the temperature of the steam so it condensates and thus allows it to be cool enough to exchange heat for hot, to bring water hot enough to run the heating perimeter, the old radiators. That is an energy and certainly a cost savings for the campus. And what you see straight ahead on that slide are the new energy efficient water heaters that supply domestic heating water, hot water to all sinks and restrooms. And on the left are the pumps that will circulate the hot water heating and the cooling air conditioning water to the building, which includes second through four, as well as the first floor studio. Also upgraded, again, fire and life safety. On the right-hand slide is the main fire suppression sprinkler system, which A B Anderson never had. On the left-hand side is the inclusion of the electrical medium voltage panel distribution, which again, everything is dialed in and separated to handle the new needs of the users for electric usage in each room. On this floor also includes the ADA compliant restrooms. And as you can tell from here on out, we're still in this construction period. So you'll see it's, in some cases, it's a mess and we still have work to do. Also part of the ADA compliance, well, we'll get to that, I see. This is the foundation studio, which you can tell has been polished floor and new cabinetry, but more importantly are the ventilation systems. And this room will have rolling work benches that will allow the instruction and the teaching for the students who are in that area. This is the jewelry studio, and hence my comment earlier. This area will be put back into use for the jewelry programs. I want to point out to you in this photo, you'll notice some things that were improved upon. Above the step ladder is a snorkel exhaust, which students would be able to pull that down and suck the smoke and other odors away from their pieces if they are brazing or applying compounds that are of a health issue for the other students and or the space itself. The other point I want to make is that at the Department of Art and Design's agreement with us, that we were not going to install a false lay-in ceilings in these studios. And the reason being is that it was a request that the contractors are artists too. And to show off their work as professionals would be of great benefit for the students and faculty to understand that it's all about art on this floor. This is an exhaust hood that allows the exhaust of any brazing and or light welding for the jewelry area, soldering and so on. It will take those fumes and pull them back away from the student so they're not breathing it right in their face. This is the ceramics area. And again, we updated the utilities for this place. We also added safety. You'll see eye wash stations and showers installed in all of the studios for the student safety, as well as anyone else that may come in and contact or have things thrown up into their faces. The areas that require other ventilation were the fume hoods as well as the kilns, and we'll see that shortly. This is the installation of the ADA compliant lift, which goes down to the main floor of the studios. If you are aware that the studio floor level is about 4.5 feet lower than the first floor of A B Anderson, there was only one way to get there, and that was down a ramp that went through sculpture. That ramp is too steep, and thus we were able to garner this ADA compliant lift for persons with disability as well as other uses. Inside the ceramics area, this is their clay mixing room. The controls for the dust collection and the slot hoods that are behind the mixing stations are all upgraded to digital controls and on-off sequences that will make the response time quicker than what the old setup occurred for ventilation. In the kiln room, the utilities got upgraded. They also received the fire suppression system, as well as the installation of new hoods that would take the heat and any other off-gassing from firing pieces up through the roof, and that ductwork, if you recall, that's going across the roof is where it would come out. Also, this room does receive a new UL-listed Roku kiln, which should be delivered the month of April. In sculpture included upgrades again to the utilities, fire suppression, exiting. We added a full-blown paint booth, which will take the fumes of painting away from those who are doing that task and forcing those things, odors and VOCs and what have you, up through the roof on the exhaust side again. Self-contained. We also upgraded the welding area for the sculpture. You can see a little larger scale snorkel exhaust arms that occupants can pull over their project pieces, and it sucks welding fumes and smoke away from the user. In this area, the crane that was in there is still in there, but it's now upgraded and inspected and ready for use when that program comes online again. That room now has a firewall and it's self-contained ventilation, so it does not leak any smoke or odors out into the rest of the sculpture area. Again, life safety of the individuals. The final piece on the first floor is another mechanical room. This unit only feeds the first floor studios. It is another 26 foot long. In this case, it's 18 feet high, and it's a large forced air furnace, as your home has. It is the addition that folks can see as they're on the exterior of the campus drive, University Drive, next to the Weber. It is clad in white panel, and the duct work that goes up to the roof line also has the same metal panel look to it. But this area, again, provides the heating, the cooling, the exhaust, power for first floor only. So, as you can tell, again, the white-skinned metal corresponds with the new building addition in the penthouse, I should say. That concludes my presentation, and I'd like to turn it back to Molly for the Q&A portion. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John, for giving us a tour of this very iconic building. We are now going to flip our cameras on and get started with the Q&A. So we'll get you on here, John. Perfect. So as a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question, you can use the Q&A button on the bottom of the screen. I know a few of you had sent a couple in during John's presentation, so we will try to get to as many of them as we can. So I think the first question, John, were there any surprises during this project?
Oh, there were many surprises. That building was full of hazmat materials. We knew there were some, but particularly the sheer amount of asbestos-containing material, and I should have figured that out because of the use of the building when it was built. Being there were areas of welding and high heat for ceramics and so on and so forth. We encountered more of that material even on fourth floor. That was basically classrooms and offices than we ever imagined. The other aspect, and I alluded to it earlier, was the sheer increase in cost. The increase in cost, by the way, if I hadn't mentioned it, the final phase 1 and phase 2 total $16.5 billion. Again, cost driven by material shortages, supply and demand, supply chain component problems, and so on. It was just not a good time to do construction during a pandemic, which dominoed into that cost factor. That was a big, big surprise, and it hurt us on this project. The price tag was way more than anyone thought, but I believe it turned out very nice and very usable space.
So when talking about the two different phases of this project, how was it decided which floors to include in the first and which floors to include in the second?
With the funding that we had in the bank and the total price estimate from the general contractors, it was determined it was easier to chip off from the top down, as the first floor was the most expensive in its reconstruction. And so it was determined we'll do 2 through 4 in the penthouse, and then again hope for the bonding on the next go around to fund the first floor. But as that went through, there was a bonding, no special session, no, it didn't happen. Another special session didn't happen. But the university here at Duluth, the priority was to finish the project out. And they were to the point of putting funding into a kitty, including basically a mortgage like you'd have on your house, taken from the central administration in Twin Cities campus. A loan, long-term loan. That was the funding strategy at the time to keep going, and we did. But again, $16.5 million. And so we could only afford phase one at the time.
So knowing that phase two involved a lot of the studio classes, where were those classes at UMD transitioned to during this renovation?
Good question. The faculty were dispersed all over campus, wherever space we had available. The studios themselves, we created space and did temporary life safety upgrades in the old chemistry building, which is fairly vacant as the HCAMS project was completed and most of the Department of Chemistry was moved over there. So we had vacant shell space from the demo portions of those chem labs. And so we put in ceramics, jewelry, foundations, and some of sculpture, but not very much of that program. And they'll be moved back in, we're hoping, once the building code division inspections, as well as the final fire marshal inspection, that should be occurring after the new generator is installed and prove that it works. I would assume sometime in June, people will be able to go in and occupy.
So you talked a lot about the structural updates of the physical building. Can you talk a little bit about the technology and/or needs that are still, I guess, a need moving forward with this project?
You know, as most folks know, technology actually keeps changing. It's almost like a daily change and upgrades. The installation of the latest, greatest classroom projection, as well as some areas have the LCD monitors mounted onto the walls and so on, that an instructor is able to plug in their laptop to and coordinate multimedia presentations for their classes. The AV screens range from your typical projector screen to, again, using an interactive style of unit. But also by utilizing the whiteboards versus chalkboards in the classrooms, it allows this technology, which is very fragile, to last until there's a new upgrade for the campus and classrooms to occur. The other aspect of technology, all classrooms are card access, allowing only certain individuals who are approved to enter these rooms be able to do so instead of leaving doors open that allows anyone to access as in the old building.
We just had another question come in here related to capacity and wondering, are there any changes to the capacity of students, number of classrooms or offices from the old building to this new one?
Capacity-wise, there are lower capacity in a few of the classrooms due to the addition of ductwork and other utilities that were now run through their rooms to accommodate. The number of offices remained about the same. I think we gained one. due to an exiting issue that we used to have, and now that is remedied, and that vacant space became an office. The studios, I do not believe, except one, that the amount of student occupants have decreased. There is one on the first floor that has, and that is the foundation studio. The capacity has gone down.
Perfect. And I think this very last question here is a little more personal for you, Jen. They're wondering, in the past 38 years of your time at UMD, has there been a project that's been a favorite project or the most memorable project that you've worked on?
Well, yeah, there have been many, actually. There's two on the top of my head that were very, very challenging, so to speak. They were not my favorite projects. I do have fond memories of taking the old library and building the new bookstore, the clothing shop. All of Kirby Plaza was broken up into a lot of smaller entities and study rooms, and that was one of the major building remodels on the campus that bring back memories, as well as remodeling Kirby Student Center Lounge. Very, very colorful, and you can tell the students really enjoy that. But there are only two buildings that I have not touched on the campus proper. One is Marshall W. Allworth Hall, and the other one is Humanities. I did do Tweed and the writing studies portion above that Tweed area, but the rest of Humanities I've never worked on. The hardest jobs that I had, or the most challenging, recently was a swimming pool. Every time you turned around, something else failed, and it was very, very tough to do. And from a 1950s pool to what we have now is really hard. It was a really hard job. And I see the question that came up on the screen right now. Yes, Chester Park was the other very difficult project. We took that over from the Duluth Public Schools. It was an elementary school. And turning that into a university occupied building and getting utilities and upgrading spaces, every time you turned around, that was another one that was very, very hard to predict how it was going to go.
Well, you've certainly seen a lot of evolution here at UMD, and we just want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insight on this project, and for all of our alumni that are tuning in today. When the project is ready to be unveiled, certainly come back to campus and take a look at it for yourself, and hopefully some of those memories will come back, but also you'll be impressed at the future of not only the building, but the programs that are within those walls. So with that, thank you so much, John, and for everyone, thank you for joining us. We usually do these Bulldogs Behind the Scenes once a month, and again, we feature all areas of campus. So we hope to see you back here at a future date. So thank you again, John, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you.